Greetings and salutations, folks. My name is Nick, and today let's talk about the blue shell moment from the Super Mario Bros. Movie. Or, more specifically, why you shouldn't call out your references. This is something that I've been thinking about ever since the movie came out, but more prominently now because of the Fallout TV show, like the Super Mario Bros. Movie, and I'm saying the animated version, not the live-action version, which decided to take a lot of liberties with its adaptation. I'm talking about the animated version that came out last year, I think? But what brought it back to mind was the Fallout TV show. And on that note, I should probably say that there are going to be minor spoilers for the Fallout TV show because it's very new and very fresh, and larger spoilers for the Mario Bros. Movie, specifically that surround that particular event in the storyline. And what reminded me of it most in the Fallout TV show was not just the amount of references that the TV show has to the game itself. Just watching the show, looking at the set design, looking at the production, looking at just the little items scattered across the wasteland. After all of my time, way too much time, playing Fallout 76, all I can see is just like, oh, I can make a camp with all of those. I've passed by all of those items. I can pick that item up. It's great. Both adaptations are chock full of references to the material they're adapted on. One specific instance I would like to mention from Fallout revolves around the stim pack. There is a scene where a character asks another character for a stim pack. In the Fallout universe, a stim pack is the healing item of choice. Let's say you have not played Fallout. If you were watching the TV show and somebody was like, hey, get me a stim pack, you might wonder what it is. To add a little bit more context to the scene, the person asking for a stim pack is very injured. You can maybe assume that it's a healing item, but let's say you don't even assume that. The character searches for something, finds it, and pulls it out. You've already seen that item used before in the show. Somebody has already used a stim pack without naming it themselves, so you already know its function before it shows up in the show. Now, as for the blue shell moment in Super Mario, this occurs during the Mario Kart scene. Mario, Princess Peach, and Donkey Kong, along with the Kong army, are fleeing back to Mushroom Kingdom, Bowser in chase, along with his own army. And it seems that for a moment, Mario and friends might be able to get away. They might be able to retreat to the safety of Mushroom Kingdom, build up defense, and stop Bowser before he can invade with his armies. When an unnamed Koopa, who has been chasing after Mario for much of the race, shouts out, "Blue Shell!" hops up into the air, flies over to the second place driver, blows himself up, and destroys the racetrack. The criticism I have is not for the inaccurate usage of the blue shell. The criticism I have is for calling out the moment, calling out the blue shell. A lot of my theory in regards to how to not use references in movies, in any material that is referencing something else that might exist outside of the world that has been established. All of my theory in regards to that comes from another movie. It is a terrible movie that I watched in theaters for some reason, and that movie is Meet the Spartans. That movie is awful. There's like one good joke in it.
Whatever you do, don't kick him into the pit of death. Stop kicking people into the pit of death, really.
Just one. And then everything else just kind of is some level of awful. There are two jokes, though. Most of those other jokes are references to something. But there are two more specific jokes that I feel represent my ideas in regards to how to not do references. The first is earlier on in the movie, when King Leonidas... Oh, by the way, there's spoilers for Meet the Spartans, but... King Leonidas leaves Sparta to prove himself. He needs to hunt a beast all by his lonesome, to show that he is the warrior that his people need. And as he's going off into the wilderness, a penguin emerges from around the corner. A penguin, a tiny penguin, waddles in and then starts dancing, which is kind of funny. Like the idea that he's like trying to prove himself, be like, I'm the big guy, and then there's this dancing penguin in front of him who then starts kicking the shit out of him. So like that by itself, okay, I can see how somebody thought that that might be funny. But as the penguin is dancing, Leonidas says he's got happy feet. Happy Feet, if you have not heard of it, was a movie that came out around the same time as the movie Meet the Spartans, directed by George Miller, of all people, who went on to also direct Mad Max Fury Road. And he also created Mad Max. It's an interesting, diverse library, but then you also have to remember that Ian Fleming created James Bond, but he also created Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. So, you know, authors and creators love to diversify. Anyway, he calls it out and says he's got happy feet. Who is that even for? If you know what the movie is, if you know what Happy Feet is, then you know that Dancing Penguin is a reference to Happy Feet. If you don't know what the movie is, then you're just saying things for nothing. You're giving information to nobody. For instance, in the Blue Shell moment, if you call out Blue Shell and you know what Mario Kart is and you've played Mario Kart, then you know what a blue shell does, so you know what to expect. And then you're like, oh no, he's got a blue shell, he's gonna destroy everything. But if you don't know what it is, then you're like, what does this mean? What does it even mean for me? It is basically a call out to say, hey Mario fans, look at the thing that we're showing you on the screen. The second moment of Meet the Spartans that I always use as a reference for why you shouldn't, or how you shouldn't reference secondary material, comes later on in the movie. Leonidas is confronting Xerxes, who turns into a Transformer, because Transformers were big at the time. The Transformer's chest turns into a TV set, and the TV set starts playing a video of a young woman crying, and she's crying and she's like, leave Brittany alone. And at the time that I watched Meet the Spartans, I had not seen that movie. That YouTube video. In the fresh days, was YouTube even around back then? Time is an illusion. But it was an internet video that had some viral claim to it, but I had not seen it, so I was just confused. I was just confused as to what I was looking at and why I was looking at it. And the Blue Shell moment doesn't necessarily have as much of that. Like, you look at the Fallout moment, and that Fallout moment, even if you're confused as to what a stim pack means, that confusion goes away when the stim pack is pulled out. Clarity is given because you already know what the purpose of the stim pack is. But for the Blue Shell moment, you'll be like, why is he yelling Blue Shell? He's a Blue Shelled Koopa. No Green Shelled Koopas have yelled out Green Shell. Why would he do that? But ultimately, those are my two go-to rules for how to not do a reference. One, don't call out something if the call out doesn't explain something to people who don't know what it is. And two, don't be confusing about it. Now, I think there are other ways that the Blue Shell moment could have been better. The main one is that Bowser throws the blue shell. Why the blue shell hurls himself? I don't know. But I feel as though if Bowser was the more direct cause of the action, then it would also have made Bowser appear more dangerous as opposed to his underlings. What did you think of the Blue Shell moment? Am I making a big deal out of nothing? I don't know. Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and have yourselves a good night. I'm talking about the and I haven't because Mario, let's talk about the Blue Shell moment from the Super Mario. let's talk about